Let's get things started. I'm Catherine White, hostess with the mostest of this political weekly GabFest show, and I'm excited to bring on Jalicia Ward. She is our Dazzle Razzler, our co-host that is going to be with us the rest of the season, as we say. So hope you got your coffee, girl. Y'all perked up?
Oh, I'm all perked up, girl. Look, got the coffee, back from the holiday break. I hope everybody had a really good holiday break. I think that we deserved it after all the campaigning and all the hard work that all of us had put in behind the scenes. So holiday break well needed, but I'm glad to be back and glad to be getting back to business.
Yes, back to business. I love it. We're going to get back to business. We are perked up. We're going to get stirred up today. We hope you have your coffee. We hope you have maybe your lunch in front of you, because we have great guests today to unpack what is going on. We are so happy that Galina Varchena, is going to be with us, Director of Policy and Communications for NARAL Virginia, because we really want to talk about the topics today, you know, how the Friday Power Lunch brings you latest news. So welcome. We're glad you're here. How are you holding up?
I'm good, and I'm just Director of Policy. Michael is the Director of Communications.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Managed to separate those two roles because one person can't do both.
We're so glad you made some time, you carved out some time, so we will circle back with you. We're going to introduce our lineup today. So thank you, Galina, for coming into the room today. And we also today will be getting political. We have Josh Stanfield here, political strategist. How are you, Josh?
Oh, I'm doing great. It's glad to be on this side of the divide in the power line.
Yeah, you get to be on this. It's so exciting. And I'm so it'll be great to talk about, because we are talking about organizing. So this case that's in front, this lawsuit, is really going to help us think about how to get ready. So we're glad you're here.
Thank you.
Yeah, and like you said, today it's all about saying what's on your mind and leaving in. You could even say this, as we say those dirty words, to get yourself all excited. All right, we have the Young Democrats of Virginia here. We bring in the youth in. We have ourselves Denver Supinger National Committee representative. We have Maureen Coffey, president, and we also have with us. I have Camila Alfonzo Meza, the Latino Caucus. How are you doing?
Fired up and ready to go.
Fired up. Hi, yes. Camila, how are you?
I'm good. Ready to get to it.
Ready? All right. Maureen, Prezi. Good to be president, isn't it?
What was that?
Good to be president.
Sometimes.
Well, we really want to know about, especially what the Young Dems are doing. We know that elections, especially this election, will really be important to get young folk involved. So thank you for being here. Looking good. Oh, and lastly, we're going to bring it with some fun and activism and craftivism. We have Kay Ferguson here of ARTivism from Virginia, talking about the Violation Vigil Project. How are you doing, Kay?
I'm well, thank you. I'm very excited about this event coming up next Saturday and making an invitation to you all. Thanks for having me.
Me too. And I love it. And when we talked the other day, you're like, you planted this flag and you put it in the ground for this event. And when you build it, they come. Woohoo, you got it going on. It's really great work. So thank you for being here. And then we're going to end up the show with Shannon Downey, Badass Cross Stitch. And you are going to talk about your 2022 Craftivism Tour.
Yes, I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, we had you on before. It's so great when we talk to you. So it'll be great to get an update. Are you in your RV right now?
I sure am. Just outside of Richmond, Virginia.
Well, that is awesome. Well, I know it will be so great to get you and Kay together also when get that activism going. A lot happens. So super great. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, excited.
Yeah. All right. For some show business, as we say, I'm sure you missed our show business, but we always like to ask our power crew to do a few things for us. And that is to make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have a lot of good content up there. And I hope you watched it over Thanksgiving as you laid on the couch. And then make sure you follow us on social media. And we will put all those links in the chat for you. And subscribe to our Badass Briefing and the Tuesday Tidbits. Stair puts a lot of work in that writing. And let me tell you what, it never lacks information. The stuff is really, it's relevant, it's good. And we always love to tell people to stick around for the best part of Thanksgiving dinner, the after chat, where all the turkeys get together and we like to have fun and talk about everything. So that will be fun to get everybody see how your break was today. I'm looking forward to that. And lastly, become a patron of the show. Just for the cost of a cup of coffee, you could support our great work, and we really appreciate it. And I don't know if we have any new patrons to shout out about, Robin, but we hope today on the show we'll get a few more. It really helps us bring you all this great stuff that we do. So let's do it. Let's bring up the show team. I would love to introduce Stare, Ambassador of Buzz, Robin, Show Wizard, Rosemarie, Shortstop, and of course, Delicia, our show dazzler. And ladies, as we go into the holiday season, you know, we have a badass boutique and we always love to give gifts and we love swag. So could we bring up the boutique? We want to show everybody, hey, if you're looking for, oh, look at that. If you're looking for fun stocking stuffers and you want to support the show too, well, we also support local artists in our boutique and our own stuff. So this bracelet is something I'm going to be giving to some friends. It is totally awesome and cool, and you can find it at our boutique. It's only $10. You can put that in many stockings. And Stare, what's your thing? What are you going to be giving out this year? Uh-oh.
Well, the badass patch, of course, okay? And also, I'm also pitching this. Come to the Violation Vigil, okay? And be a badass. Get one for your friends. Get one for yourself. Identify yourself and join us at the vigil.
Well, I love it because you sewed your patch on your jean jacket because you are a badass. You are original badass. So awesome.
Yeah, it's the iron on.
Oh, it's an iron-on. Oh, you didn't even have to stitch it because Shannon could help you stitch something if you need it, but that's good. What else do we got in the grab bag on the boutique? Oh,
well, with all that's gone on this year, I'm feeling like this holiday season, we need some badass women get things done energy. And nobody represents that better than Rosie the Riveter, a timeless badass. So my stocking stuffers from the Badass Boutique are the Rosie the Riveter Christmas ornaments from the Female Power Project by DC-based artist Lita Black. These ornaments have messages like, fa la la, let me finish, joy to the world, bitches, and the one we're all feeling right now, oh, come all ye ruthless.
Yeah, I like that one. That is awesome. No, those are totally cool. I love it. And Shortstop, Rosemarie, happy after Thanksgiving. What are you going to be putting in your stocking?
Oh, my friend, you know, I am a multitasker. Not only do I look for great gift ideas, but I look for multi-purpose items because you should have more than one thing you can do with a keychain. And I love this particular badass keychain because not only can you open your door, but you can open your bevy. It's a bottle opener. And, you know, I got a lot of these. I carry all kinds of things besides keys, hairdo.
Yeah, I love it.
Assorted elements that I leave around the house on my keychain. Go for it.
I love it. I just got an idea. We need to do a beer cozy. That would be cool. Badass beer cozy. Jalicia, what's in your stocking?
I'm telling you now, and these stocking stuffers, you guys have to get these magnets. They are 100% badass. And when your kids and your grandkids are coming home and they're sending all this great stuff, you can use them to hang up on the fridge. There's nothing more spectacular than when the kids see things that they've done, like their artwork, their report cards and all that right on the fridge. So I am all about the magnets for sure.
Yeah, awesome. Well, great. Well, you know, I have to say, we're bringing this show every Friday. We sat over the break and really thought of fun ideas to bring. So one news I want to tell everybody is in December, we will have 3 great shows. We will take a little bit of a break. And then in January, we're bringing it in the new year with a new everything, new colors, we'll send you a new link. We will have great themes going on. So we really want to continue our work into the new year. You know, that was one conversation we had over the holiday break. We're like, what do you guys want to do? Do you want to continue this work? And we're like, so we decided we're in for another season. And I think we're always doing it because we're just, we know we need to continue our work and thrive. So we're glad we made that decision. Just kind of settles the year. So we'll look forward to the new year with y'all too. All right, Louisa Borowski, head of the Grassroots Coalition. How are you? What's going to be in your stocking, you think? Do you think you're going to get coal or are you going to be a good girl?
a good question. I mean, if it was Josh Cole, that would be really cool. So, you know,
Josh, that's true.
But, you know, we are moving forward in the coalition. We are getting ready for the General Assembly. It is that time of the year. And what we're trying to do this year is really build our relationships with our legislators. So we sent them our legislative priorities letter, and I said, you know, we'd love to talk to you about what's going on. Are you available? And they got back to us in record number. So I have something like 2 political meetings a day talking to legislators about what they want to accomplish this General Assembly, what we want to accomplish, but also talking about how we're going to message, right? How are we going to talk about what our Democrats are delivering, but also what our Republicans are blocking? What are Republicans saying that they were going to do and then didn't go ahead and vote for it? So we are going to be using this session as strategically as possible. So I'm so glad the Power Lunch will still be here, because you are a key part of making sure we all know what is going on during the General Assembly. So what I want to do, encourage people, is we are starting a power mapping project. And this is going to be critical for when we have calls to action or when we need to meet with our legislators. We need to know who is willing to show up at those meetings with us. Most of them will be virtual, so you don't need to worry about having to get down to Richmond. But will you show up and just say, look, I'm a constituent and I care? Because some of our legislators, they'll listen to the coalition, but they really will listen to their constituents. So we need to know who are you, where are you located, and would you be willing to show up to maybe 1 or 2 key meetings during this legislative session that are going to be critical for us getting some of our legislation passed. So I'm going to put that link into the chat, and please fill out this form. The form is a work in progress, but if you have any questions, you're always welcome to contact me and ask. It basically asks whether you want to give us your personal information, which is great, or if you have a group that you're representing, we'd love to know who that more information about that group and where you're located. So there are going to be some questions about what county you're in, what congressional delegate represents you, and some of those other things. If you have any questions, again, I'll put my email in the chat for you to follow up. I also want to note we have our coalition meeting coming up on December 12th, and that's where we're going to be discussing our priority bills. We've sent out a letter at the beginning of January reminding our Democratic delegates and senators what bills we really want them to focus on this year. And so we're going to be discussing the process for doing that and how you can submit bills to be considered to be included in that letter. And then finally, we've started a messaging working group, and we've met for the first time, and this working group is going to be awesome. And there are a number of different subgroups that are part of this working group, and I'm going to put that information into the chat in case you missed out, didn't make it to our first meeting, but you'd like to join. And you can either join the overall working group meetings, which will be happening every 2 weeks, or you can join one or more of our subgroups. We have subgroup focused on year-round engagement. How are we talking to our voters all year round and listening to them and hearing what matters to them? How do we create a unified message that we can all get behind during the electoral cycle coming up in 2022? We're going to have a rapid response team for the legislative session, making sure that we are highlighting what's happening on a day-to-day basis. We have people focused on education, climate, race, and of course we have a graphics team. So you're totally welcome to join us if you are interested, and you can email me to sign up. So that is what I have to share, Catherine. We are not taking a break. This is not break time for us, but it's been great. And it's been really positive having these meetings with our legislators and really hearing what they want to accomplish and some of the real positive opportunities we have this year.
No, I mean, it got me very actually feeling good what you said, because I think what we know is that we can't wait. We have to organize now. We have to really look at what happened in the last election and to go on correction mode and push it and not wait for, we don't like to wait. And that's how we really win. And that's how we've done really well, just kind of trying to make those changes that will just build this movement even stronger. You know, so I'm glad. That really gets me excited. I hope people in the room are stoked and want to join, because as the coalition grows, and Dennis's work on the coalition website, we maybe put the link in there to have people take a look of that. That just so great. And also there's those calls to action you guys will be using that website through. So thank you, Louisa.
Absolutely. Thank you guys.
All right. All right, all right, all right. So let's get to it. I do want to say that we will be working on this continuously from, like I said, that jagged pill of the Virginia election, and then I had to watch Ohio State lose. So I just have to now say that, I'm ready for some more winning. But we will make sure that we continue that work here, and really important to come every Friday to really stay in community, because I really feel like this is where we will make sure that we stay on the right path and that we make the corrections we need to make. And we need to push the party and make sure that we change some leadership and do different things so we can make good decisions. With that, I will bring up Josh Stanfield, because Josh, sorry, not Josh. We're going to go right to the report. Sorry, Galina. Let's talk about the Supreme Court. Let's your insights on what's going on, and then also what it means for Virginia.
Sure. So I was in DC on Wednesday at the rally in front of the Supreme Court, and while the news reports, seem to say, hey, there were more antis there than folks who are pro-abortion rights and pro-abortion liberation, the truth is they bust in people from Liberty University.
Oh, no.
Right? They have more money. They have more kind of resources to really inflate those numbers. But when it comes to abortion rights and the country's general opinion, we're still in the majority. More people believe that abortion should remain legal and abortion rights should be protected. And as far as something like SB 8, the vast majority of people, including many Republicans, think that that law is just ridiculous. As far as the oral arguments are concerned, the points brought up by the conservative justices were the same points we were kind of expecting, except one or two really odd positions.
Odd positions.
Like Amy Barrett comparing abortion restrictions to vaccine mandates. Yes. And Amy Barrett saying that, you don't need abortion because we have adoption, completely missing all of the various reasons for an abortion. And it looks like the conservative justices are really trying to do is repeal or overturn the holding of Roe, the primary holding of Roe, right, while being able to say we're not actually overturning Roe.
Right.
Right. The primary holding of Roe and Casey is that abortion before viability, which is a legal term, not really a term used by medical professionals, but usually like around 24 weeks. So when a fetus, if a birth is induced or happens, might survive outside the womb.
Right.
Abortions pre-viability are protected, and restrictions on those abortions can only happen when they don't cause an undue burden to the pregnant person seeking an abortion. Of course, we all know that undue burden has really expanded to include so many things that for many, many Americans, especially folks who are people of color, low-income folks, people who live in rural communities, accessing abortion since 1973 hasn't been a real possibility or has been extremely difficult. So, when we talk about abortion rights, we also have to talk about access and think about that long-term. But it looks like the court is going to overturn the viability standard. And then we're not sure exactly what lines the court will draw, but the viability standard is the key holding of Roe and the key holding of Casey. And as Justice Sotomayor brought up repeatedly, nothing fundamentally has changed since Roe and Casey, and certainly nothing fundamentally has changed since Women's Health v. Hellerstetter, which was reaffirmed those decisions and was decided in 2016. The only thing that has changed is the composition of the court and the influence of the Republican Party on the court. So that's kind of where we are. That is what the lines that we anticipate the court to make. And the important thing for the movement is to ensure that people understand that even though the court might say we are not overturning Roe, that the reality is they are, and they are gutting the constitutional right to abortion. Now, As far as what happens in Virginia, well, one, in 2020, we passed the Reproductive Health Protection Act, and after that, we passed a few other bills expanding access to abortion care, and those are in danger of being, repealed by a Republican-led legislature. And in the Senate, we have to remember that while there is, half and half Democrats and Republicans, there is at least one Democratic senator who is vehemently anti-choice and has been very public about it.
Mm-hmm.
And even when you have a bill that hangs on a tie, the anti-choice, very vehemently anti-choice, Lieutenant Governor has the can break that tie. So we're not currently protected by the Senate. It will be very difficult to stop some of that anti-legislation. And while there's, we are protected in committees when it comes to the budget, that's also very difficult. And Governor Youngkin will be able to introduce budget amendments that will go straight to the floor. And in the House, bills can go, cannot be sent to committee and can be sent straight to the floor, which means, a lot of things are kind of in flux and in danger.
No, I think you're right. I mean, I think the state, I don't know if Republicans will right away go really fast on this subject, because I think politically they recognize that there's an election coming up. But I think overall what you're saying, I mean, it's going to be up to each state, and it really does make it so, the reality of what this election meant is now hitting us really hard and across the nation. And this is really entering in a period of maybe years and years and years before we really are able to turn this legally with the Supreme Court we have. I mean, when I listened to Amy Coney Barrett say what she said, that women could just go drop off babies at a fire station, I was like, this is somebody on the Supreme Court that replaced Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and it's just an insult to women. And there's no talk about really the life of women, the care of women, what will happen. It's really, and in some ways, a dark period that took a while to get here. But we appreciate you being here. Is there any other last wrap ups you'd like to say? What could people do right now? How could we help? I know people always like to make sure that they can do what they can.
Sure. And just to answer the question that popped up in the chat, it is Joe Morrissey. The anti-choice Democrat is Joe Morrissey, who was my state senator. So elect someone else in 2023 for that district. But what can you do to help? One, NARAL Virginia is every year runs a program, the Legislative Rapid Response Team, where we need folks to take specific actions. And this session, because we're not in control, we won't necessarily know when things are going to be heard, and having that body of people who are willing to make calls, write emails, etc., is really important. Two, as far as protecting reproductive access for folks, support your abortion funds. That is huge. Find your local abortion fund, and if you have money, give them money. And if you can provide other assistance, because if Roe and when Roe is gutted or overturned, abortion will be inaccessible to the west of us, probably almost all the way to the West Coast, and to the south of us completely, right? Because all of those states have trigger laws or pre-Roe bans, and abortion will just disappear. So Virginia needs to be, even if we have some restrictions on abortion, where abortion will still be hopefully legal, definitely legal. We need to be a safe haven. We need to be able to provide that access. We need to be able to provide that help.
Ready. And I think
lastly, show up.
Yeah, if you could put any links in there, that would be great for people if you have a couple funds on your mind. I know we had some great discussions with the Blue Ridge Abortion Fund and some other that we could maybe circle back to. But no, thank you so much, Galina. We really appreciate all you do. And I mean, it's something else to say that this isn't just about abortion access, right? It's really about control of your body, that women will be under, in these other states, under complete suspicion, constantly about, you know, your life, of how you can run it. I mean, it's really, I can't believe it's here, but it's here now. Now we have to really fight hard and figure this out. But thank you so much. And thank you for being here. And I would love to get on with with political strategist, Josh Stanfield. It's great to see you, Josh. How the heck are you?
Oh, I'm doing great considering the political circumstances.
I know, it's tough. I know. So let's get it going though. And let's talk about this. We had Marcus Simon on because we really know that we want to get organized and figure out what the landscape will look like. We talked about the redistricting, the maps that are up at the judge. Right now, the 3 judges are going to be deciding on, but you're bringing another perspective to it. There is a constitutional violation that you brought to the attention of the Democratic Party and other people. There's a lawsuit standing. Give us the background of this lawsuit, what it's about, the history behind it, so people in the room know what the heck we're talking about, why this is so important as we look, you know, to the elections. The House delegates may be up for election, according to what the decision of this lawsuit.
Yeah, according to the law. Yeah.
Look into the law. Thank you. Go ahead. Go at it.
Yeah, well, there's, you know, I'm just, so you all know, I'm not a lawyer. I have no formal legal training. So I'm going to try to explain this in a way that maybe other non-lawyers can understand, because it's somewhat complicated. But we have the situation Delegate Simon talked about. The Supreme Court of Virginia is currently drawing our new maps based on the 2020 census data that came late to the Commonwealth. That there should be one single map that the Supreme Court of Virginia has this month, right? They should have a map this month. So that's one thing to keep in mind with everything I'm about to say. There's another case you want to be familiar with, sort of a seminal Supreme Court SCOTUS case, Reynolds v. Sims from 1964. And the whole point of that ruling was that state legislative districts, like our House of Delegates districts, our state Senate districts, they should be as equal in population to each other as possible, right? In order to perpetuate the idea of one person, one vote.
Right.
So if you don't have, in a reapportionment year like this year, districts that are approximately the same population, that would be an unconstitutional map. Now, what's happened this year has been very extraordinary. Paul Goldman, a former DPBA chair from like the 90s, he ran Doug Wilder's campaign, Henry Howell back in the day. This guy filed a lawsuit in June of this year. And the idea behind it was, you know, it's understood based on public reporting and what we all know that Virginia's population has changed drastically since the last 2011 maps were drawn, right? And not only has there been influx in racial and ethnic minorities, but there's been population shifts around the Commonwealth. And so Goldman knew that the maps, the old 2011 maps that we were planning, it seemed, to run the elections on this year, 2021 for the House of Delegates, these maps were clearly unconstitutional based on his reading of the law. So he filed a lawsuit, as Paul Goldman does, in federal court in Richmond,
right?
Saying as much. And the real key here, the reason this lawsuit is so compelling from the beginning is that this question has come up before in Virginia federal courts. In 1981, there was a federal court case in the same Eastern District of Virginia federal court in Richmond, where we had a very similar situation. Virginia in 1981, the legislators had drawn maps that ended up being ruled unconstitutional that same year before their 1981 election for the House of Delegates. And the federal court in the Cosner case, this is Cosner v. Dalton, 1981, the federal court decided that, okay, here's our problem. We've got maps that we've determined are unconstitutional, House of Delegates maps, but they're running an election under these maps in a couple months. What do we do? What's the remedy? And the court, in its wisdom, decided that, well, you know, it would be like chaotic to cancel these elections in a few months in 1981. Right. What would happen? That would be insane. That can't be the solution. So the court decided, okay, in the case where you are running an election under unconstitutional maps, the remedy is You run a new election the next year under new maps that are constitutional, right?
Right.
So what happened with the Cosner ruling is in Virginia, they had to run House of Delegates elections in 1981 under old unconstitutional maps. Then in 1982, under the new maps, taking into account their census and that were determined constitutional. And then again in 1983, under the normal schedule. So Paul Goldman goes to court in Virginia with this basic idea. We've got a court case from the same federal court in Virginia with the same question, saying the solution is we'll have new elections next year under fair constitutional maps. Paul files this. Now, this is where it gets very unusual. The Attorney General, Mark Herring, and the Board of Elections and the Commissioner of Election, those are the people Paul was suing, and the Attorney General is representing them, they never were willing to take a position one way or another. Should it be 1 year or 2 year terms? Or are these maps even constitutional?
Right.
Delegate Lee Carter, back in April of this year, sent a formal request for an opinion to Mark Herring saying, as a member of General Assembly and by law, I want an opinion from you on whether these are constitutional maps. To this date, Mark Herring has not replied to Lee Carter, which, you know, is seemingly a violation of the law if he doesn't reply. So we're all left in the dark. Are these maps constitutional or not, even though nobody will claim they're constitutional, the current ones? And are we going to get a remedy? And so this is a situation Paul Goldman has dealt with.
Right.
And over the last several months, he's been litigating first in the Eastern District, and then there was a court hearing. And there was a court hearing, I think it was in October, and I went. There weren't many members of the public there. There's a good piece in the Virginia Mercury by Ned Oliver about this hearing. And at this hearing, the federal court judge Novak basically told the Attorney General, you know, what's going on here? You know, what's your position? Why aren't you doing your job? And the Attorney General decided to appeal a little ruling on procedural stuff from that hearing to the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, right? We're one step away from SCOTUS now. And as I talk to you now, Goldman now has his case in the federal district court, which has been taken from one judge to a special 3-judge panel.
Okay.
And this case in the Fourth Circuit that the Attorney General appealed. And it seems to be something like a standstill. In fact, Judge Novak in that hearing I referenced told the Attorney General's lawyers, if you're going to appeal this to the Fourth Circuit, I don't want to see you withdrawing that appeal because that'll look like you were intentionally stalling.
Right.
So this is the situation we're in right now.
Huh.
We have these court cases, you know, Goldman pending in the courts,
Right.
the Attorney General not resolving this, not being willing to settle the case on what's obvious law to most lawyers. Scott Servo has said this should happen, Joe Morrissey and others.
Right.
We're trying to figure out what's going on and how can it be that in this entire time, you know, nobody has been willing to stand up and say, we do actually need to protect these voting rights, these constitutional rights, and we need to do what has been done in Virginia history. Never have we run in a reapportionment year on an old map like this. We need to do what's right and have new House of Delegates elections in 2022 under the new maps that we're going to get from the Supreme Court.
And we get those new maps when, like in end of December or around December?
The Supreme Court of Virginia should have a map this month. Now, whether or not that map is going to be litigated by outside folks, you know, for various reasons.
Right.
When will that map be the map? Who knows? But there will be some map this month, presumably, that I don't know if the public hopefully will be able to look at it. But the political question now, after these elections, I mean, this is where it gets very strange and I would argue very dangerous for people who consider themselves Democrats and for people who want
care about voting rights.
Who care about voting rights and the integrity of the voting system in Virginia, which, you know, Democrats and many of us have been sort of fighting off this idea that there's election fraud and wide scale, you know, it's kind of nonsense. But here's where it becomes problematic. What has happened in the past couple of weeks when the Republicans won all these House of Delegates seats is our Democratic Board of Elections issued certificates of election for 2-year terms explicitly to all these folks. They did that. And so now, here's the scenario I want to paint for you.
Right.
Let's say in the next couple of months, the federal courts decide, you know what, Paul Goldman is right. The law is obvious. This is what we do in Virginia, and this is what we're going to do. We're going to slash the House terms to 1 year.
Right.
And next year, you're all going to run again in these new constitutional House of Delegates maps. So the 3-judge panel that would be doing that are two Democratic appointed judges, one by Bill Clinton, one by Obama, and a Trump appointed judge, Judge Novak. Right. So you have a 2-to-1 Democratic court that's going to decide, hey, Republicans in Virginia, we're going to cut your majority in the House in half to a 1-year term. That's what we're going to do. And this is where it becomes dangerous.
Right.
Can we not expect Amanda Chase and Donald Trump to come into this mix with a certificate of election in their hand, issued by a Democratic Board of Elections for a 2-year term, and say, look at this certificate, and now Democratic judges are stealing the election, cutting the terms of the Republican majority in half. What the hell's going on? Call to arms, stop the steal, all that typical bullshit we're used to. That's a very reasonable, and it's in the political interest of Chase and Trump to do this. And do you think Miyares and Youngkin are going to back away from Trump, Chase, and protecting a 2-year majority in the House? Hell no. But this has been set up by inaction on the part of the people in power the past 6 months, which were us. I mean, I'm a member of the Central Committee of the State Party, the Democratic Party. We're the ones who haven't been saying anything. Mark Herring hasn't been doing anything. So the question is, what can you do since it's a court case? Well, one of the reasons I wanted to talk to this group is because I know there's heavy hitters in this room. A lot of you know these folks. You know Mark Herring. I mean, if you live in Loudoun, you're being robbed of a House district until the 2024 session. Right. If you live in Danica's district, if you live in Stafford or around Fredericksburg, I mean, all these areas deserve so much more representation you're not going to get. So, I mean, I hope people reach out to Mark Herring, to Chris Piper, to Bob
different folks.
Yeah, to the folks on the electoral board and the AG who can still settle this case. They can stop this before it gets in Miyares' hands. Because once Miyares is AG, right?
Yeah. The new AG is coming on in the new term. I mean, it's, as you say, it's quite a pickle. And I'm wondering if there was just a lot of assumption that they would win the House and all this stuff. And so it is super, super duper political. And so, well, looking at our time here, we need to wrap up, but it's sort of like, this is tough for our work. I think we have to look forward that we will be having elections again. I think that's how we should prepare, because some of this other stuff seems so kind of out of our hands in a way. I think the worst thing that we could do is just sit on them and say, well, probably not this or that, but just prepare ahead for this. And hopefully, like you said, it sounds like it could get a little bit crazy. So come back, Josh.
I'll be here for the after talk.
I know, an after chat, stick around, because then we can get really down more and dirty into it. I know we're getting on the hour. We have a lot of guests that we need to get to. So thank you, Josh. Thank you, man. It's good to see you. And Jalicia, let's hand it over to you to make sure we get the young Dems up, and let's talk about what they're doing. So thank you, Josh.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Catherine. And I am honestly ecstatic to be joined here today by the Virginia Young Democrats. And if you guys don't know who they are or what they do, just know that the Young Dems are one group that is looking to make change in 2022. So we will hear from 3 women on the executive committee who are ready to shake things up. We have Maureen Coffey, who's the president of the Young Dems. Welcome. We have Denver Supinger from the National Committee representative, and we have Camila Alfonzo Meza, who from the Latino Caucus. So listen, Camila, you're bringing out my Latino roots out of me. So I hope I pronounced your name correctly. But let's start with the president of the Young Democrats, Maureen. Tell us a little bit about yourself and basically describe who are the Young Dems and what is the mission of the Young Dems here in Virginia.
Thanks. We're gonna need a lot more than 10 minutes if we're gonna cover all of that.
I understand.
My name is Maureen. I grew up in Manassas. I've been the president of Virginia Young Dems for about 1.5 years now. We are the statewide Democratic youth organization for Virginia, encompassing teens, college kids, and young professionals and young adults. So we go from age 13 to 35. We are affiliated with the Young Democrats of America, the College Democrats of America, and the High School Democrats of America, as well as the Democratic Party of Virginia. So I sit on the DPVA steering and central committees. We also have a number of dedicated seats on central and congressional district committees that are purely for young people who are representing. We do work across the entire spectrum, the entire year, whether that is organizing our annual lobbying day. We had once a week phone banking events for this past cycle, and we had 6 campaign invasions across the Commonwealth of Virginia during the fall season, going in person, knocking doors, bringing young people together. And really, it's about making sure young people have a voice. It's about making sure that we are looking around and asking who is not in this room, and then meeting people where they are. We can sit and pontificate about different reasons why people might not be joining, might not be attending, but if we don't meet them where they are and actually ask them what their reasons are, we're never going to address the true causes. I see a question, how many statewide members do we have and how many college chapters? So we have over 4,000 members, I want to say. And statewide chapters, we are at 45 with nearly all colleges represented. We're working on our HBCUs right now. We're working on some of the Southwestern smaller private colleges like Emory and Henry. And we're working on some of our chapters who aren't officially chartered with us, but for example, Old Dominion University in Southeast has a chapter that's very active. We are just have fallen out of connection. And it's really hard with young people because we turn over so quickly. College chapters, people are involved for 2 to 3 years and then they graduate, and sometimes we get disconnected from their leadership, but it doesn't mean that they're not doing really good work. And so we work really hard to just stay in touch to make sure people have a network and have supports. And I would love to pass it over to Denver.
Yeah, Denver, absolutely. Denver, feel free to chime in and just share with us anything. I mean, I know we have questions regarding like the expansion of the Young Dems, and we have questions as far as like voter turnout, like how do we get more youth and our youth communities involved to turn out for voting? So absolutely.
Yeah, thank you so much. As Maureen noted, we have a large and vast age group, and I want to recognize those who are 35, right? Have kids, have families, have been working, have economic concerns, are part of the community, right? We want to say youth are the one that go to high school and then college and never come back to our community, so we don't need to engage with them. We are here. Even our high school students, we see deep dedication to their school board, to their local board supervisors, to their state politics, and understanding their impact. And we see this with Gen Zs, right? Going crazy and terribly involved in politics, but yet people still underestimate the power of young voters and young activists. What we didn't see in this past year's elections, and which has failed in elections past, is actual engagement with this understanding of either young people aren't worth it, they don't show up to the polls. But we know as political organizers that if you get someone to vote 3 years in a row, they are voters for life and they will show up, right? And if we can start that from 18, 19, 20, honey, you got your work done until you're 85, like you're done. Right? But we don't want to invest that time and space because we don't know how to talk to them. We don't want to engage. We saw, some investment in like Hulu and different ads online, but we don't really see these spaces being taken over, and the issues that we are trying to change in our generations actually being discussed. So there's so much still to do. And I know Camila did some outreach as well. That was kind of like last minute thoughts, right? And we definitely need to keep progressing in this space.
Absolutely. Well, Camila, she said you did some outreach, girl. So the microphone is yours. Definitely chime in and share with us your outreach that you've done with your community and what you plan to do near future.
Sure. So my name is Camila Alfonzo Meza. I'm the president of, the chair of the Latino Caucus. And I'm also the political director for the Fairfax Young Democrats. So we focused a lot on filling in the gaps where we saw them with the different campaigns, and sort of focusing on races that needed a little additional help or support. As far as outreach, I personally I like to focus on like the accessibility of the events that we have. When we talk about having the membership of the Virginia Young Democrats being between high school students and 35, in order to provide events that are accessible to all those people, you need to take a lot of things into consideration. When you hold an event, where are you holding it? What are your ticket prices? What is the time that you're holding it? What type of event is it? Are you holding exclusively happy hours? Those are not events that are accessible to high school students, and often are not accessible to many of the youth, since often young people have the least amount of control over things like their work schedule. So even like, not to pick on this, but like even an event like this that is like in the middle of the day on a work day is not accessible to the majority of young people, or even, you know, high schoolers at all. Like they're gonna be in school during this time. So if we wanted to hear their voice, like we couldn't have them here just because like, you know, they don't have the flexibility as like 15, 16-year-olds to be like, oh, I'm sorry, let me step out of this math class. Like I gotta be politically engaged, you know? So it really is just a matter of like making sure that we're thinking about all of those things as we put these things together also.
Absolutely. And I love that. And making it more accessible and more realistic for everyone's schedule to build that foundation for their voices to be heard is extremely important. And I absolutely love and support. And I mean, we all do the work that you guys do is phenomenal, because we know that we are building the next generation that's coming in on the political realm. So much gratitude goes towards the work that you guys are doing. Continue doing this work. Is there anything that any three of you would like to share? Any last minute? How can anyone from this age room get involved and not just get involved, but stay involved, right? Because the obvious goal, like you guys said, is to have that 3-year expansion and have people stay involved and become voters for life. So anything else anybody would like to share?
I think, you know, one of the big things that I'll always go back to is like, let's not project onto young people what young people issues are. Ask us, talk to us, because one, we're not a monolith. We're not going to all have the same answers and the same concerns. But two, it's really, you know, take a look around. And if you have been, let's say in your local committee, Democratic committee for 10, 12, 25 years, step down, make space, bring other people in, because I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say, we really want to, you know, I really want to join my Democratic committee, but the person running for chair has been there for 25 years and there's no way I'm going to beat them. Mm-hmm. And the reality is that they are correct. And it burns bridges, because people who are incumbents and who have been in these party roles for so long, they take it as a personal attack that they've done something wrong and that we're coming at them because we, you know, don't want older people. But it really is just, you've done your time, you've done your work, and we have new ideas. We are all over Twitter and Instagram, and our teens constantly tell us, we don't understand Facebook, stop putting things on Facebook.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing, that's so true.
You know, they really push us. I mean, I'm 26 and they're pushing me to think more about more inclusive ways to bring people in. But I think part of it is when you have that stop at the top where people are not making space and making room, you're never going to bring people fully in. I think it's also about saying that if you say you value young people, treat them with value. And that means paying people for their time. It means really emphasizing that you can't say young people are super important, and then when they tell you what they need to feel supported, that you say, well, we can't do that. And making sure that we're planning for the future and we're not only thinking about the things that affect older people. And I see a lot of questions about youth turnout, and I can tell you that youth turnout was terrible this year, because I had a board meeting where we had young people in tears because they have never been so stressed out in their entire lives, bringing back in-person school, bringing back all of the pressures that come with that. People who have never been in college for the first time, but are sophomores now and who are expected to perform at a level as though they have really been there for 2 years. And you have to recognize the human cost of the pandemic. You have to recognize that young people are affected by the pandemic differently than people who are settled in their careers and with families. We're facing so much more instability. We're facing so much more chaos and threats to our livelihoods, and it can't look the same to approach young people as it does to approach older people. And I see Denver unmuted, and I want to give you a shout.
Well, you're having fine. Look, what I'm going to say is, I need all three of you to stay for this after chat. We do have another guest or two that's coming on. So we want to thank you. One, express gratitude for your time and for coming in. But if you have time after 1 o'clock, stay within the after chat, because we do have a lot of questions. And a lot of questions regarding the youth, a lot of questions. We want your voices to be heard. So hang tight. I'm going to pass it back over to Catherine, but hang tight for this after chat. So people,
please do. I think
our guests the opportunity to ask these questions, because we got them.
I love, Maureen, everything you said. I think that goes up and down the level. I'm just going, yes, because it was like this year with our bench, who should have been, I'm just going to say it, the candidate that was put up was not, the lack of enthusiasm around it, a little bit of that too. It's all about people stepping aside. And we built the bench. We're told to build the bench, and then we're told to, not your time yet. So thank you, Maureen, for being honest and bringing it. So Jaleesa, thank you.
Thank you.
And
thank you, guys.
Talk about bringing it, and please stay for the after chat, because we know we really want to learn more and more and more. And we do hang out in there a long time. Next up, we have Kay Ferguson. This is talk about inspirational, talk about bringing it. This violation vigil that you have planned, let's just get right to it. Tell us about it. We're so excited. We're going to be down there. So yes, Kay.
Yes, I'm here. I know we've had such a wealth of wonderful information, and we're running a little tight for time, so I'll be brief and simply invite each of you and your community to join us in Richmond on Saturday, December 11th from 1 to 4 in the afternoon at Dogwood Dell Amphitheater in Bird Park. And why we're there is that this is 3 days before our Virginia State Water Control Board will make a decision whether or not to grant the Mountain Valley Pipeline another not earned water quality certification, which would allow them to bore under 126 waterways in Southwest Virginia, and to complete this ill-advised from the beginning corrupt project, high pressure, 42-inch fracked gas pipeline coming over the steepest slopes. Never has one of that size been built at all, and certainly not over this kind of geology. So we've been fighting that at ARTivism Virginia for 5 years. Started fighting ACP and MVP. And right now our focus is to draw attention to the fact that this new proposed permit should not be granted because there's no reasonable assurance that it will not harm our waterways. And there is no past compliance. So the Mountain Valley Pipeline, under not only a pre-existing inadequate struck down by the courts water permit, committed over 300 documented violations of that permit. It has committed hundreds since without a permit to cross waterways, and they're right on the banks of the rivers. They're built right up to it. And if the Water Control Board does what it has done in the past, although it's a new day, I'm split screening right now with the Air Pollution Control Board to see if they'll knock down this air permit for the Lambert, which is where the Mountain Valley Pipeline is headed. If they do what they've done in the past, and the Army Corps then subsequently does what it has done, this permit will not stand up in court. That's very clear, even to me, not a lawyer, but it will not. But what will happen is they will go very quickly. And in the past, when they've run quickly ahead of the courts, they have committed even more destruction. They don't care. They're lawless. And that to them, violations, compliance is a joke, and violation fines are a small budget line item. So we have this window in December where we do finally have authority with a citizen board to stop this project. And so the other thing is about coming on Saturday is that we need to be big and we need to show who we are. And we have fabulously beautiful ways to do that. Our keynote speaker is the Reverend William Barber II, chair of the Poor People's Campaign and Repairs of the Breach. We have Jason Crazy Bear Compost Keck, David Slive, Wild Virginia, Delegate Sam Rasool, who's been a champion, as you all know, in fighting for our environment for many years. Emily Satterwright, representing Appalachians Against Pipelines, and those are the kids that do the direct. Russell Chisholm, who heads up the Power Coalition, and Sonia Taylor, representing Sunrise. And we have amazing music. We have Yara Allen, who's the theomusicologist for the Poor People's Campaign, Joe Troop, wonderful artivist and talented musician from North Carolina, the No BS Brass Band, which those of you in Richmond are gonna know how big and bright and bold that music is. And then we have members of the Sun Sing Collective, which is our band that some of you may have seen work before. So
yes,
we have puppets, we have music, we have everything. But mostly what we need is to have 300 people come and give body and voice to each one of these violations. There are 250 people already registered who have their violation vigil.
I love the sign in the back. They're gorgeous signs, by the way. Look at those signs. Everybody's going to be holding one and they get a chance to speak. Look
and
at
you
that.
Can hear it.
See? I love it. Well,
hands-free marching.
In the chat, people want those links. I think Rosemary may be putting those in now. So hang with us because I know Shannon is also a cracktivism person. You're an art and activism. And I love what you said the other day when we talked, being too tired to quit. I want that on a t-shirt. You guys haven't given up. You've been persistent. You have stayed in the game. And we are so grateful to have you back on, and you just grateful that you planted that flag, made this event. It's going to be awesome. And what a better way? Go to Richmond, go to the vigil, and then let's go to dinner. Let's go get a drink, Bob. I see Bob's in there. We'll maybe meet some of the activists down there and party a little bit. And who doesn't like to party? Thank you, Kay. Speaking of that, everybody stick around 5 more minutes because you don't want to miss Shannon. Shannon, I'm so glad you're here. Last time, Shannon Downey, badass cross stitch. Last time you were here, we talked about what you were doing. It was amazing. So let's just get right down to what you've been doing since the pandemic. I mean, the last time we spoke, you sold everything. You got an RV. You're embarking on a nationwide tour with your badass cross stitch. And then the pandemic hit. Tell us about that. Tell us about what it was like being on the road during the pandemic. And I know we have some slides. I don't know when we want to put those up.
Yeah, so this was like a super good idea before a global pandemic hit. And then I was just, driving around the country in an RV. I had like 200 events booked and they all got canceled. And so it became this sort of immediate need to pivot and figure out how I was going to continue to do the work I was doing, including like where I was going to be in terms of like all the RV parks shut down. So I had nowhere to park. But the internet is awesome. And so I put together a Google form and I said, hey, anybody who has a flat driveway and a plug and wants to let me park in your driveway, I will do that. And then like 3,000 people filled it out. And so I've been driveway hopping for the last 1.5 years. And getting to go meet amazing people, despite the fact that, we're in a global pandemic. And we found really creative ways to sort of continue to do the work.
Talk about your work real quick. Tell people what you do. I mean, I think we may have leaped a little bit. Some people haven't seen you the first time, and then we want to hear about every neighborhood, how everything was so different that you learned what you learned on this trip. But
yeah, so my art is really, I basically trick people into hanging out with me. They think that they're gonna like take an embroidery workshop. And then within a few minutes, they're talking about all of the things that you're never supposed to talk to strangers about. So I really use it as like a community galvanizing tool with the hope that within these spaces, when I leave, that community continues to exist, and they've found like-minded people in areas where maybe they don't think there are other like-minded people, and that the community work can come out of that shared experience.
is very cool. I mean, I saw some of the badass stitchery, and it's a great way to get together, like the quilting bee thing. So now you're on the road, and I want to talk about that unique experience, what really happened to you as you went around, that not everybody experienced this pandemic the same.
Yeah, no, there was not one area of this country that I went to where I felt like anybody had a shared experience whatsoever. Wow. Like, it was really, you know, I was coming out of Chicago where I had been locked up in my apartment for 2 months, like hadn't been outside. Everything was very locked down, very serious. And then, you know, at one point, I think I was driving through North Carolina, and I went in, I needed gas, and I was like, man, I really need a coffee. So I mask up, shield up, gloves on, walk into this gas station, you know, and there's like 30 people in there, no masks, smoking cigarettes, playing Keno.
You're like, everything's cool.
I was like, well, I'm not going to get coffee here. But truly, like, everywhere I went, it was like a totally different universe. And so the more that I hear things like, oh, we've all been through this together, I'm like, wow, no, we haven't, not even close.
That is unique. And you can only get that by really getting in this RV and traveling around. And last time we kind of hooked up too, you were in Austin and you settled in there. And then, I mean, what happened during that storm down there? I mean, I thought they lost power and all that. What happened down there with that?
Yeah, I mean, I almost died. It was terrifying. You know, and to sort of be going through that experience, right? You're there, you're with all of these people who 90% of them had no idea about the grid, right? Like, because it was such an old decision in Texas, like nobody even knew that they weren't part of this grid, right? So, and then to see the government, the local government and state government just completely fail. Right. And I think the hardest part was actually seeing like the rest of the country's reaction and seeing things like, you know, well, that's what you get for voting red, was, you know, well, I'm like literally there with other people who are community organizers and whatever, and we're literally almost dying. We are dying.
Yes, that is frightening.
It was so like it was a super traumatic experience. Again, thank God for the local mutual aid organizations, for the local community organizers, for the folks the strangers who were helping on a house get into safe spaces, who literally picked me up from my RV, me and my dog, and brought me to a stranger's house. And those people kept me for an entire week. Wow. In the middle of a pandemic, you know? So I think what I saw was a lot of like mutual aid, community organizing outside of politics, outside of political parties, like people really feeling like the answer is in the community, the answer is in mutual aid, the answer is not in government right now. And, you know, the real feeling of being left behind, regardless of sort of where you fall on the political spectrum.
No, I could hear it in your voice. I can hear what you went through. It made getting me a little choked up thinking about that, because I mean, you know, we all were seeing that going on in Texas, and it was horrifying because the government seemed to say, sorry about your luck. And then there's that kind of some reaction, that mean reaction where people, like you said, well, look who you voted for, which isn't helpful. And then we did see people.
Well, and it's like not true either, because of all of the gerrymandering, of the, you know, like it's there. The majority of those folks were like, what I didn't vote for that. You know, like
that's not the reaction we need to give, right? That's not helpful. But we saw Beto make it seem to try to get people together, and he's running for governor. Good for that. But so my other topic I want to make sure we get to, because I want to start one, is the Feminist Fight Club. Tell us about this one other trip. When you were in Roswell, was that where were you? Is that
Roswell, New Mexico? Yeah.
Sorry. I didn't know what NM was. I'm like, what state is that? I need to brush up on my geography. The Feminist Fight Club. How do I get in it? What is it?
There's 30 of them. They're just delightful. I was really just like stopping in Roswell because it was the perfect distance between the two places I was actually trying to go. And but I was like, oh, I'm gonna go like watch X-Files and see aliens in Roswell. This is gonna be great. Cool. And that was like my entire goal. Yes. And then this crew of women were like, wait, you're going to be in Roswell. You have to come hang out with us. And I was like, who are you? And it's like 30 of the most badass women I've ever met. They are literally the only like left-wing anything in all of that area. Yeah. And they have just been tearing shit up.
I love it.
At great risk to themselves, honestly. At great risk to themselves. But we had a lot of fun, and we stirred up a lot of trouble while I was there.
Did you drink tequila?
No, tequila and I are no longer friends.
Oh, that's right. Okay. I didn't know. I was just guessing. I just think tequila now is the drink of 2021. I'm going to recommend it on the rocks or straight up. Let's get to the good business here. I know that we're obviously over time, but you know what? It's our first time back and we're just overly excited and you have so much to tell us. You're on now a new tour. Oh my gosh, here's the RV, here's the barn. So let's just run through it. Tell us about this and tell us about, talk about what you're doing next on this new tour you're on. And I'm hoping that you get to see Kay and the artists out there in Virginia. So go ahead.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, well, I decided I'm taking a do-over because the first year was, it was amazing and I got a lot done and I got to meet a lot of people, but it wasn't sort of the initial vision / impact that I wanted to have. So I'm literally like, today is the first day of the next year. But this time I'm sort of back to the original vision where I've mapped out my path. I'm already starting to connect with community organizations in all of those places. We're bringing people together. I'm supporting work and amplifying work that's being done there. We're looking to create art interventions and community building through various mediums, and
love it.
I'm excited about it. Yeah.
You need some kind of big logo on the side. I don't know. You need to art that up a little bit. No, you don't. You don't want people to know.
I want to not in the white supremacist RV parks that I have been parking in here and there.
We'll give you a Trump flag you can fly once in a while just to keep yourself safe. And what is this on the wall?
Yeah, so right now I have a huge show in Philadelphia. So if anybody's within driving, I think you're all within driving distance in Philadelphia, at the National Liberty Museum. And it's over 270 pieces of my work. And one of the community art projects that I've been working on for a few years called Badass Herstory. So yeah, it'll be up through February. So
what is on the table there? That looks very
that is a casket, and that is my official resignation from the Catholic Church.
Ooh, that's big.
It's a pretty powerful piece.
That's like a lot. Yeah, remind me a little bit of Judy Chicago from here. Now that is very
the highest of all compliments. Thank you.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah. That's something else. I get that. I'm also what we call before raised Catholic, but no longer practicing. Craft Activism Micro Grant. What is this about?
Yeah, I just wanted to put this in front of people. The deadline is the 15th. I ended up getting a commission I wasn't expecting, so I decided to reinvest it into the community. Nice. And so I put together a little Craftivism grant. So it's $500 cash and then 10 hours of my time over the course of the next year, supporting somebody who has a really great idea that might need a little support and direction and seed money to get it launched.
Nice. I love this. Thanks. Okay. Well, we are at 111 and I love us just for it. I'm just loving that. I know some people dropped off. We still have about 100 people in the room. Good for us. I want to thank I'm so glad to be back. I know the team's glad to be back, just to see everybody. It's a daily, as we say, struggle, but we have to actually go beyond that and really learn to thrive. And this kind of artivism, getting involved with crafts and art and people and joy is what we have to do every day, because we have to learn to live in this. And so it has to be that we have to actually make sure that joy is in our work and community stays in, and plant our flag, as Kay says. And also I like, as Shannon said, tear shit up. That's what we're going to do. We make a nice Friday feminist fight club. How's that sound? So thank you to all, don't you love it? Thank you to all our guests. Next week, I'm going to tell you to stay tuned. Next Friday, we have Senator Jennifer McClellan here, who's going to really light it up about how we hold the Senate, that firewall. Get us some really great ideas how we can really look at how we're going to organize to be stronger together. And Tram from New Virginia Majority will be here, Tram Noon, to talk about also touching people, outreach to voters. So make sure you're here next Friday. And okay, we have a patron of the show, Susan Hartford. Thank you so much for being a patron. We really appreciate that. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and remember that we will be going on a break around the holiday, like December 21st and then the new year, but we will be back strong for the new year. So just make sure that you look for the new link we'll be having for you next week. We'll be keeping to make sure when we start the new year, we start with the new link. We don't want to lose anybody. So thank you to all our guests here. We really appreciate it. Stay for the after chat. I hope the young Dems are going to be here because I think we have a lot of questions. So lots of love to everybody. See you next Friday. Stick around. Love ya.